I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Tape my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other days. Sometimes I can't tell if my body belongs to me. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Content, hold your breath and feel the tension. Devils hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell. I wanna taste consumption, be faster to waste oxygen. Hear the children sing aloud. It's music till the wick burns out.
There it is. I was like, when's the screen going to pop on? Hello, how are you guys? Sorry, I played our song for our pre-recorded videos. I played it on the live. I meant to hit the other button and I hit the wrong button. So, yeah, that's why we listened to that song. So I just realized it right when I was like getting ready to come on. I was like, oh crap, you hit the wrong button. StreamYard did an update and it switched all the buttons around. So it's going to take me a few minutes to get used to. But if you're new to the channel, you had no idea. So to the people that are new, hi, hello, and welcome. My name is Tanya or TitaniumBuilt, and welcome back to the viewers that are here to come back for another round. We're going to be talking about Crystal Rogers' case tonight. It's been a while since we've talked about her case. So we're going to talk about it. So let me say hi to some people in the chat. We'll let some people kind of float in. It's getting warm in here now. Put my sleeves up a little bit. It was cold in here a little bit ago. So let's see who we got in here tonight. Let me show the comments on the screen for you in case anybody wants to look at the screen for the comments. I don't know how big they are really on your side, but they're pretty small on mine. Hey, Ladybug, welcome in. Hey, Catherine. Hey, baby girl. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Petunia. And if I missed you, I'm sorry. Hey, Captain. It's good to see you guys. Hey, Tony. Not smoking for now. What, my captain? I saw that. I stay in a fog, Kathy said. The fog is nice. You're from Alabama? I'm from Ohio. Ohio's not too bad. It was rainy here today. It was crappy, actually. Ain't gonna lie. Hey, Mr. Rosebud. And of course, I had the dentist appointment this morning, and I was like, it was just rainy, and like I did not want to get up. But I did. I got up at 3:30 actually. I thought it was 5:30. I got up and was just started doing stuff. And then I looked, I said, "Oh, that says 3:30." So, Did he ask him? Oh, wow. I didn't know he actually asked him. I saw something about it, like, on, Twitter, like, something about him asking, but what? He has a lot of nerve. I mean, like, the Chrisleys, yeah, they didn't pay their taxes or whatever. I don't know, like, the full whole story about them, you know? That's a little different, I feel like, than the stuff that he's allegedly, has done. You watch your Eagles and there's nothing good on. You know what, Ladybug? Guess what happened to me today? Yesterday, actually. Okay. So last night, and you guys will get a laugh out of this. Last night, Vincent was like, "Guess what?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's smiling all big. Like, and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "We got another bird." And I'm like, "No, we don't. What are you talking about?" Because I was just on the back porch like earlier that day and I looked up just out of habit, and no bird nest was there. Nothing was there. Well, would you look at there? I have to show y'all. There's a bird making a nest. He made that. They're back, Sonny and Cher. Or I don't know. Not one was named Adele because we thought it was more than one, but we think it's just the two. The two lovebirds are going to have some more babies. This is the third time. Hey, Ash. So I'll be watching them. Hey, Moxie's mom. I'll be watching the pigeons. I guess they could go. They can go all year round. We looked it up. I was like, do they like take a season off? Seeing if I missed anybody. Hey, DM, how you feeling? Hey, Nancy. Hey, Crystal. Hey, Lord Mama. Hey, get to the ducking point. Hey, PKC, welcome in. Well, Moxie's mom will get you set up. Anybody that doesn't know about the case, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a rundown before we get into like the trial stuff. So, hey, Mia More. I always try to do that at least. And I'm actually going to use just one of my old presentations that I put together before, because the facts that haven't changed really. So, hey, Kara, welcome in. Thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate it. I really do. Is it Cindy Lynn? Cindy Lynn? It almost sounds like Cindy Lynn. My mom's name was Cindy. So, hey, Cindy Lynn. If I'm saying that right, which I hope I am. Okay. I'm going to get to the bottom. There we are. We're there. We made it. Okay. So if you guys don't mind, since I've, talked your ear off here, take a second, hit the like button for your girl. It does get us into the algorithm the faster we do it. So I'd appreciate it if you guys would. If you guys want to hit the dislike, if you're like, man, we don't like this girl at all, you can hit the dislike, but don't do that. That's not nice. It's not nice. So let me go ahead and I think I need to adjust my camera sometime too. I feel like I need to have it like lower, maybe. Okay. So I do have some of my notes because I wrote down some stuff as well. Actually, let me get this stuff off of here and present it. Okay, there we go. Oh, actually, this is actually the last page. So we're going to just close your eyes for a minute because I might get you a little dizzy. Okay, I didn't want to get you dizzy. So the Crystal Rogers case, that we're going to go over this like little like spreadsheet I went over, but a little bit of a background. It involves the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. She was 35 years old and she was a mother of 5 from Bardstown, Kentucky when she went missing. She vanished, poof, July 3rd, 2015. And there is a little bit of a background in, the disappearance. So the disappearance, Crystal was last seen with her boyfriend, Brooks Houck, at his family's farm in Bardstown, Kentucky on July 3rd, 2015. So her car, a 2007 Chevrolet Impala, was found abandoned 2 days later on the Bluegrass Parkway. It had her keys, her purse, her cell phone, all of that stuff was inside the vehicle. She was reported missing by her mother, Sherry Ballard, and her boyfriend, or at the time fiance, didn't even go with her to, report her missing. He actually went on Nancy Grace It was very good. It was such a good episode. Like, we might have to watch it again just because it was like Nancy like tore him up. Like, she was like on it. So can't say she wasn't on that. She was on that like, man. So this is Crystal. There's not a lot of pictures of Crystal out there. I have come to realize, but this is going to be like a little bit about the case, so you guys can have a little bit of a background, and then I got a short video to give you some more background before we get into what's going on now. So Crystal Rogers, a 35-year-old mother of 5, went missing on July 3rd, 2015. She was living with her boyfriend, Brooks Houck, their son, and Crystal's 4 other children. She was last seen by her boyfriend. He said that when they went to sleep, she was still awake and playing games on her phone. When he woke up the next morning, she wasn't there, and neither was her car. The family immediately became suspicious of Brooks and said many times throughout this investigation that he didn't show any emotion. He didn't help in the searches. He didn't show up at the press conference. And I said, although it stated that the police told him not to come, that's what he says. And even when Nancy Grace and another reporter interviewed him, he once again showed no concern for Crystal and the fact that she was missing. He actually went to a July 4th barbecue. So that's how much he cared. And Nancy Grace asked him about that like 4 or 5 times, maybe more than that. Like, why were you at a barbecue, when she was missing? And like, she was grilling him on that. So on July 5th, Crystal's car, and that's the car that's pictured here, was found on the BG, or it's called the Bluegrass Parkway. Crystal drove a maroon 2007 Chevy Impala. Her purse, cell phone, and diaper bag were found on her front seat, and the keys were in the ignition. The car also had a flat tire. On July 8th, Brooks was brought into police station for questioning, and we did go over that interview that he did at the police station. I don't know why it says in the show, but in the show, the police said at first, Brooks showed no emotion and that he was calm about half an hour later. He showed that he had a temper and he was cussing at the police. Halfway through the interrogation, he got a phone call, and it was from his brother, Nick Houck, who was a Bardstown police officer. So he is in there just answering questions about Crystal's disappearance, and his brother, who is a police officer with the same town, Bardstown, calls his brother and tells him not to talk, stop talking. Well, okay. So he did. Well, he said, do you want me to stop talking? He made a big charade out of it. It was really bad acting. Brooks said he was leaving after the phone call. Crystal's mom thought it was weird that since he kept claiming he was innocent, why would his brother need to tell him to stop talking? And I agree with her. The next day, Nick was called to testify in front of a grand jury. The police had a strong suspicion that Nick had a hand in the disappearance of Crystal. Nick was given a polygraph test and failed. They also searched Nick's police cruiser and found biological fluids in it. He told investigators he didn't care what the damn computer said and that he was innocent. On October 16th, 2015, Nick was fired from the police department shortly after they named Brooks as a suspect. They searched the farm property and took several garbage bags of evidence and didn't find anything. They did find surveillance tapes of Nick and Brooks leaving closely together and thought that was interesting. They need to go back out there and search again. I don't know if they would find anything after this long, but I feel like she's always been on that family property. I just feel like that's where she is. But it's like, it's 200 and some acres. So it's like, that's a lot. So this is, this case gets sadder and sadder. So on November 19th, 2016, Tommy Ballard, who was the father, and he went out and he looked every single day for Crystal, morning, noon, night. Sun, if the sun was out or if it was raining, if it was snowing, he didn't care. He was going to be out there. He was going to be out there searching for his daughter. Wanted to bring her home no matter what, Tommy Ballard went hunting on his family property with his grandson, who was only 12 years old. He told his grandson he left something in the vehicle. He was killed by a single gunshot wound to the chest. The police tested Tommy's gun and ruled out self-inflicted. So somebody, come to find out, shot him through the tree line. And I believe that was the Bluegrass Parkway on the other side of that tree line. So Crystal and Tommy's family think their cases are connected. We all know they are. Crystal's mom, Sherry, said Tommy told her that a few days before he was being followed, his case has never been solved either. And then I'm not going to read the one with the two girls because I think that the officer said that one wasn't. They ruled that one out. But there is other deaths that are mysterious in Bardstown. In May 2013, around 2 a.m., and remember, Brooks' brother, Nick, was a Bardstown police officer during this time. So around May 2013, around 2 a.m., a Bardstown police officer named Jason Ellis was on his way home when he was killed off exit 34. He got out of his car because it was being blocked, and that's when he was killed. He was killed by a 12-gauge shotgun. And that's a picture of him there. I'm going to grab the dogs. They're hitting the door with all they can hit, with all their might. And hey, True Crime Lullabies. Yes, it's Kentucky. Sorry about that. Bardstown, Kentucky. Okay, I had to grab my drink. All right, lay down, girls. And I always forget to turn the light on behind me, so I'm going to turn it on real quick. It's like one of those ones I've turned on with my phone. And you guys can't even see it, actually. Like, is it this way? There. Now you can. Okay, anyway, sorry. So the arrests were made, and this started in 2015. So this case is 10 years old. For the people that have been following this case for the whole 10 years, like myself, there wasn't like a whole lot of information there for a while. It was just them searching the properties. They weren't coming up with anything. Brooks and their family held like high ranking in this town. He owned like some construction businesses, and I think like a couple houses, like some properties. And so he was kind of like up there, and like the social, I guess, class of it. Or let's say he had like a little bit of money and people, thought that he could come and do something to them. So no one was talking, but arrests were made. That picture of Stephen freaking make this one, or Joseph, I mean, this one scares the crap out of me. Look at that guy. Scary dude. I don't care who you are. This guy makes Brian Koberger look not so scary. I mean, if that guy was coming after me, I'd be real scared. On September the 7th, and we went over this too, and it never happened. Joseph Lawson, a 32-year-old Nelson County man, was charged with criminal conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence in connection with Roger's death. So they've never found her body, but they started to arrest, people, because they must have had the evidence, and they did. They do. I think it's 400,000 pages they said they had to give to the defense. Yeah. He pled not guilty in Nelson Circuit Court, and his bond was set at $500,000 cash. On September 27th, Brooks Houck was arrested. I think actually this is when we started covering it, when he was arrested and charged with complicity to murder and tampering with physical evidence. His bond was set at $10 million. Stephen Lawson has been indicted on charges of criminal conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence in the Rogers case. And that's who we're going to be talking about tonight. because he went on trial and his trial lasted a big whopping 3 days. And they were ready to convict. Property searched. They've searched this property multiple times, but multiple law enforcement agencies conducted another massive dig in Nelson County with ties to at least one of the high-profile unsolved cases that have gripped the Commonwealth. Since they have buried Jason Ellis and Tommy Ballard, that only leaves Crystal. So this was back in, I want to say September. I wish I had the date on this one, but I think it was like September when they did that search. But I can't be 100% on that. But in my mind, I'm thinking that's when it was. Hey, Carl. Hey, Deb. Where you been, Deb? I haven't seen you in a while, it seems like. So, I mean, it gets even crazy. This case gets crazier and crazier. So basically you have this woman who is a mother of 5. She has custody of all of her babies. She goes missing. She was last seen with her boyfriend and I believe he was 2 at the time. And they were going out to his farm, Brooks's farm. Hadn't been seen in 10 years. A year after she goes missing, after her dad's been searching for her, he's out with her son, which is his grandson. They're out hunting, going to go hunting, probably get the kid's mind off of things. And somebody from the tree line, because there's markings on the tree, shot Tommy Ballard, her dad, and killed him. I mean, her mom, Sherry, man, that woman is strong. So strong. I can't even imagine. So, but I mean, they did at least finally arrest Brooks, which is good. And there will be more arrests coming soon, we're hearing so. And you'll hear that tonight too. So this is going to be just like a look back, like a timeline kind of. So this came out just a few days ago, right before the trial started. So this came out 4 days ago.
Happened to someone you loved. They disappear, and then all you know is that whatever did happen to them wasn't good. Since 2015, the Crystal Rogers case has weighed heavy on the Nelson County community. Questions remain about what exactly happened to her. To this day, her body has not been found. But prosecutors in her case believe there are 3 men who do know. We poured through our archives, looking at past interviews, at scripts, at video. As we prepare for this trial, we're taking a look back at how the case got to this point.
It all seemed odd from the beginning.
We're just trying to find her.
July 3rd, 2015 was the last day 35-year-old Crystal Rogers, a mother of 5, was seen alive by her boyfriend, Brooks Houck. 2 days later, she's reported missing by her parents. That same day, July 5th, Rogers' car is found along the Bluegrass Parkway with her things still inside.
Her purse was in there. Her cell phone was in there. Her keys was in the ignition. She don't ever leave her cell phone, ever. She would have not got out of that car and left her cell phone in that car.
People looked for clues. Police asked for help.
If Crystal can hear our voice, we love you. We want to know where you're at. Contact us. Let us know that you're okay.
Call it a parent's intuition. Sherry and Tommy Ballard knew whatever happened to their daughter was not good.
Just trying to hold it together.
Crystal's family was very vocal about their suspicion of her then boyfriend, Brooks Houck, having some sort of involvement in her disappearance.
I specifically told him that day, I think you did something to my daughter. I made that very clear.
The signs went up. The searches continued on land, by foot, 4-wheelers, canines, and horses, and in water. And no shortage of prayers. July 8th, Brooks Houck was brought in by the Nelson County Sheriff's Office for questioning. Nick Houck, Brooks' brother and a Bardstown police officer, called mid-interview and told him not to speak with police.
If you're telling me to leave, I'll get up and leave.
July 9th, Houck spoke with Nancy Grace.
I'm 100% completely innocent in this.
That same month, Brooks Houck fails a polygraph test. In October, a big development from the Nelson County Sheriff.
I would label
He never went back on Nancy after that failed polygraph.
Brooks Houck a suspect, yes.
But he wasn't arrested, at least not yet. Crystal was presumed dead. Houck's brother, Nick, was fired from the Bardstown Police Department for interfering with the criminal investigation into the case.
That's just not how we do it as police officers.
In 2016, Houck's grandmother, Anna Whiteside's home is searched, along with the farm of Rosemary Houck, Brooke Houck's mother. There was a custody battle. Tommy and Sherry Ballard say that Brooks Houck stripped them of their privileges to see their grandson Eli after Crystal went missing. Then a turn of events that shocked everyone 16 months after Crystal disappeared.
We come out every day, hoping we'll find something. We need closure.
In November of 2016, Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard, who had been investigating his daughter's disappearance, was shot and killed while hunting with his grandson on family property. Tommy's father, Till, spoke to us.
They were two good human beings, and they didn't deserve what they got. It's just hard to put it behind us. We'll never... We'll never put it behind us. Tommy will always be there, and Chris. He wanted to find his daughter. That's all he wanted. And evidently he was getting too close to finding her. And somebody, it wasn't no deer hunter. They had to get rid of Tommy because he was finding out too much.
August 2018, the case captured national attention from NBC's Oxygen Network to the Today Show and Dr. Phil and others.
Did her boyfriend ever join in the search for her?
He never lifted a finger.
I believe someone wanted my husband out of the way.
August 2020, the FBI steps in and takes over the investigation. Over the year, there were searches at Brooks Houck's home, their family farm, Crystal's storage unit, including one in 2021 in the Woodlawn Springs subdivision, where Brooks Houck's construction company built several houses shortly after Rogers disappeared.
A lot of police presence in the backyards, cutting grass, using shovels, using chainsaws.
After a
Jenna, thank you. Thank you for gifting out 5 memberships. Welcome on in, guys. Lenora, Amber, Linda, Mermaid, and Paige. I was going to say something. Oh, I think maybe she could be on one of these properties. Now, if he was building houses on these properties, how much of the work was he doing? How much of the work was being outsourced for other people to do? Was he laying concrete or anything like that? Was he building the basements of these houses? You know, I don't know how that would even work. They'd have to get like a search warrant for each house, and then they would have to freaking tear the place apart, right? I mean, you could maybe do ground penetrating radar first, maybe something like that before you tore someone's basement all to hell. But backyards, look at all, I mean, the concrete, like sidewalks, the porches, the driveways. I don't like that.
They search, federal agents find an item of interest under a driveway.
You don't have any closure in her particular case. And the fact that they're still investigating all this is incredibly encouraging.
In October of 2022, the FBI was back at Houck's 245-acre family farm.
See, they never told us if it was like what the evidence was they found.
The FBI spent days combing through it and did confiscate an item there too. Then in January.
When was that? So that was the one I'm thinking of. October. I said September. Okay. And I was a year off too. I said 23, I think. Wow. Man, the years go by quick.
2023, a special prosecutor is appointed to Crystal's case and to other high-profile Nelson County death investigations, including Rogers' father. A big development months later in August. 32-year-old Joseph Lawson is arrested on 2 charges: conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. Then the arrest that many waited for more than 8 years.
This is a giant step in the answer about what happened to Crystal Rogers.
September 27th, 2023, the FBI arrests Brooks Houck.
Where's Crystal Rogers?
He is charged with murder and tampering with physical evidence.
I'm excited that now the whole world, especially Nelson County, knows that possibly, hopefully, justice has been and will be served.
In October, Houck is arraigned, and during the proceedings, the prosecution revealed they believe they are in possession of the firearm used to kill Tommy Ballard. And in December,
I meant to mention that earlier. Yeah, so officers think that they are in possession of the gun that killed Tommy Ballard. And if they are, it is the gun that Nick Houck, I believe, tried to sell. It was his gun. And it had I think there's 6 points or something that you need for comparison. And they had 5 of the 6 matched. So it's pretty huge. Hey, Delana, welcome in. So yeah, pretty huge. Huge things are happening.
a third man, Steve Lawson, is arrested and charged in the case. Steve Lawson is Joseph Lawson's father.
If I could get close to him, but that would be the law hold me back. One thing I can say. Because the son of a bitch don't need to be on this earth if he had anything to do with Crystal, and I know he did.
Headed into trial, we have items of interest from the FBI, a dead father, a missing daughter, and prosecutors say these 3 people know what happened to them. All 3 have pleaded not guilty.
See, they're not just saying Crystal. They're not just saying that they know what happened to Crystal. They're saying, they know what happened to Crystal and her dad. Wow. Okay. I was watching through these videos today earlier, and I got through most of them, but some of them I didn't have enough time to get through. So we'll listen to a few of them together, but most of them I did get through. So let's see. I've been going to the local news because there's no cameras in the courtroom, but there's a local station that had people inside the courtroom the whole day, taking notes, and then they would come on at night and give a recap of what happened for the day. And so they did really good recaps too. It's WHAS 11 is the news group. So we'll just kind of go through their videos and listen to see what they had to say, because a lot of stuff came out in court, a lot. So this trial was for Stephen Lawson's case. He was charged with conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. He was indicted in December, and he pled not guilty. And he went to on trial. It was a 3-day trial, so just 3 days ago it started. It ended today. Can you imagine? Only 3 days. You do something so horrific. I don't care if it's just driving the car or what he did. I don't care what his role was. He had a role and he did it. That just makes him just as guilty as the person who unalived her in my head. And the sentencing is crazy. You're going to find out tonight what he got sentenced to. And it's crazy. It's crazy to me. But I don't know. This case has just gone on so long, but I just think that he deserved a little more time.
Nearly 10 years after Crystal Rogers was first reported missing in Bardstown, Kentucky, the 4th of July weekend of 2015.
Let me know if you guys decide you want me to put the closed captions on. I'll turn them off, but I'll leave them on if you guys decide you want them on.
The first trial connected to this Bardstown murder mystery is now underway. The opening statements in Steve Lawson's trial happening just this afternoon. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us here on WHAS 11 Plus. I'm Doug Prophet. Every night right throughout the trial, we're going to be right here with you, sharing an in-depth look at the day's proceedings. Plus, we have expert analysis from WHAS 11 legal analyst, Louisville attorney Nick Mudd. But first, Steve Lawson is the first of 3 men charged in the case to go to trial. He is charged with conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. He's not charged with murder in this case. Lawson's trial was moved to Bowling Green. That's in Warren County, Kentucky. And WHAS 11's Shay McAllister is there. And Shay, the day started right out of the gate with an attempt to actually delay this case.
Right, Doug. Not a huge surprise to anybody who's been following this. Steve Lawson's attorneys have asked for continuance in this case multiple times. They did so again this morning. So I have got 25 pages of notes.
Can you imagine you're in the courthouse and they're asking for a continuance? If Ann Taylor tries to pull that crap in Brian Kohlberger's case, I'll be cursing.
I'm going to be referencing to make sure I'm giving you guys as close to exact quotes as I can. This is what Darren Wolf, Steve's attorney, had to say as soon as court was in session. As you know, we have asked to continue. We are going to let the court know we have worked diligently to prepare. We have done anything and everything we could, but we know we have not reviewed everything. We simply are not prepared. The judge did ask for some specifics here. He wanted to know, well, exactly what do you think you haven't seen? What are you worried about not seeing? They mentioned there's 400,000 pages of evidence. They haven't looked at all of it.
400,000 pages of evidence. They've had since 2022. I don't know how long they've been as lawyers, but he's been in jail since then. Why aren't we looking? Why aren't we looking at it? You know what I mean? Like, why? I would like to see 400,000 pages of discovery.
Hundreds and hundreds of hours of interviews. They haven't listened to all of it. And when they were answering the judge's question on specifically, what is it that you're so worried about? They said, there's issues with Nick Houck, there's issues with Brooks Houck, and we feel they're related. They also said, we have not been able to review anything with the Jason Ellis case. This is the first time we're hearing Nick Houck mentioned, Jason Ellis mentioned in Steve Lawson's case at all, and by his own attorneys who are saying, we think that there could be some connections here that we'd like some time to explore. Well, the judge said, quote, nobody has been able to solve Jason Ellis, and we don't think we're going to solve it at this trial. Motion denied. And with that, we were straight on into jury selection. He gave it no more thought. Doug, I know that this is something everyone knew was going to happen. They were going to ask for a continuance. And then again, everyone was expecting the judge to deny it, which he did.
Well, Shay, that is fascinating what you just said there about Nick Houck, certainly bringing his name into this really right out of the beginning there, trying to connect the other unsolved cases. Is that what you feel was sort of going on there, or why did this come out of the blue?
We'd have no idea because they didn't dive into it at all. All they said is, we think that there's evidence that has to do with issues on Nick and Brooks on this case. We want to look at the Jason Ellis case, but we haven't had a chance to do that. We need more time to do it. And the judge just shut it down immediately. He didn't entertain it. They didn't go into any more detail, but it was kind of their last-ditch effort, the defense's last-ditch effort to reach for something to convince the judge to let them have more time.
Shay, let's talk about the jury selection here, because of course you have 12 jurors, but 3 alternates in this case, total of 15. What's the breakdown of the jury members that you actually saw in front of you today? We might add, you're taking such great notes because the judge has banned cameras in the courtroom, and so we won't be seeing video out of that courtroom.
Right, exactly. This is all we have for a record of what happened in the courtroom today. So the makeup is 15 people. We have 10 women, 5 men. And like you mentioned, only 12 of them will ultimately be involved in that final decision at the end of the week. All of them did confirm that they could stay through the end of the week, which is how long they think this trial is going to last, possibly until Monday. And I think incredibly, that's due to just how quick jury selection actually went this morning. So jury selection was underway at 9:20, according to my notes. And by lunchtime at noon, a jury was seated in this case. We had expected that this could take days, if not a week. When last time I talked to Nick, we talked about that. Would it even be possible for them to find a jury here? The answer to that we learned is yes. And they did that by acknowledging right off the bat that just because you've heard about the Crystal Rogers case does not mean that you can't be a juror. They asked some really specific questions about this. They said, raise your hand.
I like the questions. So listen to the questions, because they might do something like this for, Brian, whenever he goes on trial.
You've heard of the case. Almost everyone raised their hand. I think 10 people out of the dozens that were in the room did not raise their hand. Then they said, okay, keep your hand raised if you know some specifics about it, but you don't have an opinion. And then they said, keep your hand raised if you know specifics and you have an opinion. 7 people had their hands raised. They were at the end. Those 7 were dismissed for having an opinion. But Doug, most of the people in the room had heard about it, but said they could put that aside. They could just focus on the evidence that they heard today to make their decisions, which is an important part of trial. They also wanted to know if any of the members of the jury knew any of the potential witnesses. So we learned in jury selection who we might be hearing from in the case. That was the detective John Snow, who already testified today. Sherry Ballard, Crystal's mom, already testified today. Brian Luckett, he's a Kentucky State Police detective who has not testified yet, so he may be coming. The defense listed off a number of people. None of them were familiar names to me, but one of them did have a conflict with a jury member, so he was dismissed. The defense was also incredibly focused on police connections. They wanted to make sure if anybody knew police officers, had family members who were police officers, that they were open to the idea that just because a police officer says something does not make it fact. That was really important to the defense. And they were drilling it in. They were drilling into their head too that they were not here to decide if Crystal Rogers was murdered. They were here to decide if Steve Lawson was part of a conspiracy to kill her, if he agreed to move her car, if he knew that something bad might happen to her or had happened to her, and then if he actually went through with it.
That firewall they put out there, you're right. That distinction was fascinating also at the beginning. So Shay McAllister, of course, cover every twist of this case for many, many years, going to be on this trial and then the next one. Shay, we're going to get right back to you in just a second. But first, we want to switch to WHAS 11 News legal analyst Nick Mudd of the Mudd Law Group. He's been with us for more than a year now, talking about this case, following it closely. A lot to cover there. I first want to bring up this information that we just heard Shay say, bringing in Nick Houck, the brother, who's, of course, a former Bardstown police officer, and Brooks Houck, saying there could be. Are we going to be in for some bombshells in this case, Nick, or is you follow attorneys closely? Is this some strategy?
Well, the issue is 400,000 pages of discovery. Imagine reading a 400,000 page novel, Doug.
I wouldn't want to do it.
It's almost impossible. You couldn't finish it in a year, a couple of years. I mean, who knows how long it would take. And so the problem that I see with the case potentially going forward, even if the prosecution gets conviction, on appeal, the Court of Appeals may look at this and say, look, these attorneys should have had more time to prepare. This is way too fast. The judge pushed this case too hard to trial, and they should have been given a significant amount of time to at least review all of that, plus the hundreds of hours of interviews.
But that didn't happen. The judge has moved the case forward. So you heard some of the key evidence come out today. He's been following our WHAS 11 blog, by the way, on our website, WHAS11.com. That information being provided by Shay McAllister and Joseph Garcia with our web team, giving you excellent updates when they can. When she can come out of the courtroom, she posts it. The evidence you have been focused on is the cell phone data connections of Steve Lawson next to Crystal Rogers' car there alongside the Bluegrass Parkway, where the engine was still running. The cell phone was there, turned off. Why is that so important to you?
Well, we all carry cell phones. They put us at a specific time, place, location, and even the prosecutor, Shane Young, said in an opening statement that cell phone and GPS data is going to be crucial to this case. And I think, it's going to put Steve Lawson at the scene, and it'll tell a tale for us where he was at a specific time, when he left, his interactions with Brooks Houck. Those things of that nature are going to be key here to getting eviction. I've been saying it all along. You and I have discussed it. The GPS and cell phone tower data is going to be crucial to getting a conviction against him for that conspiracy charge.
Why was it so important to tell these jurors right off the bat? You can't think of murder and the murder of Crystal Rogers when Steve Lawson's really faced with questions about whether he knew. That's part of his charges.
Right. Certainly, I think the defense and the prosecution both hit on that and kind of tried to differentiate somewhat. But certainly, they're not there to see if he is the person who actually committed the act. And I think the defense lawyer, Mr. Wolf, wanted to make that clear to the jury. Look, he's not here charged with killing someone. That's not why we're here. This has to do with any sort of plan and preparation, and if he knew what was going to happen to Crystal Rogers.
Do you think Steve Lawson gets a conviction in this case, or does he get off?
Well, Mr. Wolf conceded an opening statement, conceded the tampering physical evidence. There's a saying that we have in law, which is admit what you can't afford to deny, deny what you can't afford to admit.
Why did he admit that Lawson is guilty of that?
Well, strategically, Lawson has been in custody for approximately a year now, give or take, a little bit of time. Tampering is just a Class D felony. That's 1 to 5 years. This conspiracy charge, we're talking 10 to 20 years. So let's say, hypothetically, Lawson walks on the conspiracy charge but gets convicted of tampering. He's immediately parole eligible in that case, potentially get released immediately. Or if the jury didn't give him that much time, maybe a year or two, he could be served out almost immediately and get released. So strategically, I think Mr. Wolf wanted to build credibility with the jurors. And, it's pretty clear based on Lawson's statements, et cetera, and probably going to be clear from the cell phone data that he did had something to do with moving the car and leaving the car on the side of the Bluegrass Parkway. However, I think he wanted to build credibility with them and say, look, we admit that. We don't have a problem with that. But what we are denying is this serious conspiracy charge, which is a 10 to 20-year prison sentence.
We just heard Shay report the list of the witnesses coming along. A lot of police folks were going to be coming along the way, but that the jurors were questioned about police connection. She said they seem to be very concerned in their questioning about that. Why?
It's common for both prosecutors and defense lawyers to ask those questions, primarily because we want.
I assume because Nick used to be an officer, and Officer Ellis was killed too in this. So,
to know, is your brother or sister or cousin or husband or wife in law enforcement? Because most people, if you're connected to law enforcement, you tend to typically believe the police officer. And a juror has to give every single witness an equal playing field when they start. Now, that can change as they testify, obviously, but you can't say, hey, I have a family full of police officers. I believe police officers more than I would a lay person. If you do that, you're going to be struck as a juror.
Okay, we're going to come back to Nick in just a second. But first, of course, it's been a fast-moving day here for day one of Steve Lawson's conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence trial. We want to head back to Shay in Bowling Green, who was there for the opening statements. And Shay, what guidelines did they give the jury about their job in this case? I mean, you just talked about one of them. I'm curious about those opening statements that you heard today.
Sure. Well, Doug, as a reporter in a courtroom, opening statements are everything because it basically lays out the roadmap to the trial, right? It tells us exactly who are they going to be calling, what are they going to be explaining, the high points that they want jurors to really pay attention to. We love opening statements, so I'll spell those out for you. As far as juror instructions, they're really simple. They said, listen to the evidence. Take notes if you want to. Don't talk to anybody about this. Don't watch any news on this. Do not Google Crystal Rogers. Just report for jury duty. Listen to what we tell you. And at the end, make a decision. That was what the juror was instructed to do. So here's some of the things they heard in opening statements. This was from the prosecutor, Shane Young. He spelled out how we would see photos of Crystal's car on the side of the Bluegrass Parkway exactly as it was left, which we had never seen before until today. We actually saw her keys in the ignition, her purse and her cell phone sitting on the passenger seat. We saw a skid mark behind the car, which they said was caused from a flat tire that would force them to pull over on the side of the vehicle. We saw the seat that was pulled up closer to the steering wheel. Steve Lawson's attorneys say that he admits to doing that. He was the one who moved the seat. And so a lot more details about the car that we had never heard before. We also talked about and heard about that 3-second phone call with Brooks Houck. It came up during one of the first police interrogations during this case. Brooks called Steve and said, hey, I called you a few days ago. What did we talk about? And Steve said, oh, we were talking about rental properties. Well, now the prosecutor saying that was all a story. It was a cover-up. What that phone call.
You're not telling us nothing that we didn't already know. Okay, we all heard that. If you guys were with us back then, we listened to the police interrogation, and it was the worst acting I've ever seen.
Call was actually about was to say that the job was done, and that job was a plan to murder Crystal. So the defendant said that Brooks had asked him, will you get rid of Crystal? I want you to get rid of Crystal. And that Steve Lawson said, no, I won't do that. I don't want to be part of killing anyone. but I will move her car. And that he went ahead and did that. And like Nick said, they admitted to that. The defense in their opening statement said, yes, that they did that. Doug, this stood out to me, and I had it highlighted on here. I've been talking about it all day. Shane Young called that night, the night that Crystal went missing. He said, Crystal took a fatal ride to the farm. And he's talking.
I'll let it go play more, but Crystal took a fatal ride to the farm. That's where her and Brooks were at the night that she disappeared. Supposedly, they were at the farm.
Talking about the Houck family farm on Pascal Ballard Lane, the farm where so much time has been spent searching. There's been so many conspiracies about what happened there. Him bringing that up in the opening statements leads me to believe we're going to get a lot more details about what they think happened at the farm that night. Crystal took a fatal ride to the farm. They say after 9 p.m., Crystal was never heard from again on that night. And that was what the prosecutor had to say. On the other hand, defense attorneys also get to give their opening statements. They spent their entire time just discrediting the prosecution's case, saying there's many things that were stated by the prosecutor that you will not see evidence for. There's no proof of conspiracy to commit murder. This is all a narrative. This is a series of individuals that are going to attempt to be heroes. They want to be the people who solve the greatest mystery in the history of Kentucky. So the defense really creating this this room for questioning, this room for does the prosecution really have that? They say no, but they do admit that Steve Lawson drove to mile marker 14 on the Bluegrass Parkway. His son asked him to pick him up there. Before he left, he moved the seat in Crystal's car, and then he took his son away from that spot. So that's what we heard in opening statements. Very interesting, and I'm excited to hear more in this case. I think we might hear some details about that night that Crystal was killed, according to police, that we've never heard before.
Just that line you said there, fatal ride to the farm, says so much, especially after we watched the FBI camp out and work on these properties for so many years, Shay, and not really knowing what they were able to find, the evidence on the way. Well, then the testimony got underway real quickly today. What about the first testimony? Who was first on the stand? What did they have to say?
Sure. So Sherry Ballard, Crystal Rogers' mom, was first to testify today. As soon as she took a seat, she had a tissue in her hand and she was softly crying in the witness box. She was struggling even to introduce herself to the jurors, just so overcome by emotion. And Doug, I talked to her before a trial got started, and she told me she knew she would be. She knew that this would be difficult. She knew that having to recall the final days with her daughter, those first days of searching for her, and the realization that she might be gone forever was going to be incredibly painful for her, and it appeared that it was just that. She talked about the final text that she had sent to Crystal saying, everyone is worried about you. You need to respond to your children. She actually read them to the jury, exactly what she had wrote. She talked about going to the sheriff's office to report Crystal missing. It had been at that point 2 days since anybody had seen her or heard from her. And on the way, she sees Brooks Houck. She actually flags him down. They pull over to a gas station and she goes up and talks to him. And for the first time, we saw surveillance video of this interaction. We saw Brooks Houck pulls into a gas station, Sherry Ballard pulls in, and Sherry goes up to the passenger side of the car and actually has a full conversation with him. And we couldn't hear anything, but she was filling in the blanks for him. She said, I told him I'm going to file a missing persons report. He looked at me like I was talking to a person off the street. He said, I think that's what you should do. And he drove away. He did not go with her. He did not help search for her. Sherry said that they would never hear from Crystal again. They would never find any sign of Crystal. In her mind, she knew right then that Crystal was gone forever.
I wonder, because they didn't, so we haven't like, we didn't get to see like the pictures of the car and like all of that. I'm wondering if they're going to release that. I'm thinking about putting in a FOIA request for Steve Lawson and seeing if they come back with anything, like if they come back with the stuff that they showed at trial. Let me know if they said anything about it, if they were to like keep all that sealed. But because, Brooks hasn't went on trial yet, but I'm wondering. It doesn't hurt to, put in the FOIA.
So many pieces of this puzzle coming together as you're vividly describing it there, like that surveillance video. So Shay, as we wrap up here, they still expect this trial to maybe even possibly end by sometime on Friday?
Pretty incredible, right? That we got started on Tuesday morning with a motion to delay. And yeah, there is a belief here that we could be done on Friday. That's the goal. I think at the speed we're moving right now, it's a safe goal. The hope is that if the prosecutor wraps on Thursday, defense said that they could wrap on Friday and they could send the jury off into deliberations on Friday evening. They do not want to call them back on Monday just to deliberate. They say that is a last resort, but they will if they have to. Everybody in this jury pool has agreed to come back on Monday if they need to.
Okay, Shay will be with us here every night, breaking down a full day in the courtroom. Again, no cameras allowed in the courtroom. That's why you're seeing sketches and Shay's great notes. Thank you very much, Shay. And Nick.
I don't know why it keeps blocking my comments in my own dang chat, but all I wrote was, I think I could do it from Ohio. And it blocked it. So Ashley, I think I could do it from Ohio. I think I can. I know that Tennessee's like that. I wonder what other states are like that.
Mud's been listening in.
I've never run into that problem
Shay,
yet.
as we have been talking about this and breaking it down with our WHAS 11 News legal analysts. So, Nick, never before seen evidence revealed in the courtroom today, so fast out of the gate. And then that key line, the fatal ride to the farm.
Right. Once again, you know where I'm going to think about this and go on. Cell phone records now of Crystal Rogers. We know her cell phone was found in the car on the side of the road of Bluegrass Parkway. We know that Mr. Lawson helped put that car there. That phone was found in there, but it was turned off. A question would be now, what do her cell phone records show? Where was that phone turned off? What was the last tower that it hit from, and what time did it hit? And
yeah, what time did it hit? Did it hit at like 9 o'clock where it wouldn't have been her playing games late at night on the phone? Like that, I mean, I wonder if that's going to show up.
I'm wondering if those things, if they don't come out here, they will come out in the trial of Brooks Houck.
To your credit, you've been bringing this up for maybe a year here on WHAS. You believe that evidence will be irrefutable, or is it just going to fill in another piece of a puzzle that we still have fuzzy information about?
The fact the phone, we know she had a phone. We know the phone typically would be on her, and like it is all of us. I think it's the type of stuff that's very difficult to refute. Cell phone towers keep track of where we are at all times. There's a historical pattern of where you have been. If your phone is with you, you can see who you called, when you called them, when the phone was turned on and off. And I think that it's going to be key here to getting a conviction. And it may be key to convicting Mr. Lawson of the conspiracy to commit murder.
Well, all of Bardstown's going to be a buzz that they even brought up Nick Houck's name, who is not charged, and he's not involved in this case. Let's cover some of the obvious questions, though, that still remain 10 years later. We don't know the why, the motive of why Crystal Rogers was killed.
We do not.
Do you think that'll come out in this?
I do not think so. I think it's possible, but every prosecutor in a homicide case generally will start out saying, if they don't have a motive, hey, we don't have to prove a motive. We only have to prove the elements of the case to you. You may want a motive, you may ask for a motive, but that's not what we have to prove. What we have to prove is at the very end of the case, when the judge instructs you on the law, those elements are what we have to prove. You would think by now we would have a motive. We don't. We don't have a body. We don't have a cause of death. And, certainly Mr. Wolf is right. There's a lot of unanswered questions here.
So let's go back to no remains at all, no inkling of where the body could be. Do you have to have that for a conviction? I'm not talking just Steve Lawson, but as we come to June 24th, which is the beginning of the Brooks Houck Joseph Lawson trial, do you have to have that in that case?
It certainly helps, but no, you don't have to have it. You can build what's called a circumstantial case. Certainly everybody wants to have, as a prosecutor, physical evidence to show, kind of the remains of someone, the cause of death, etc. However, it is not required. Juries like to see it. Prosecutors want it. Detectives want it, but it's not required. But it does make getting a conviction against Mr. Houck substantially more difficult come June.
Tomorrow becomes day 2. What are you expecting these attorneys to throw at? Because this morning you were texting me saying, hey, I know what this attorney is going to do this morning. He's going to try to get a delay.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. How does this start out tomorrow?
I assume there'll probably be a lot of police witnesses tomorrow. You know, a lot of people describing the scene as they found the car, things of that nature. At some point, we'll turn, I assume, to have an expert in the cell phones that will testify for the prosecution. But I don't know what that will be or when it will be. But I do anticipate a lot of law enforcement testifying tomorrow.
So you expect that Steve Lawson, if he gets convicted on the one count at least, how many years in prison would that be?
So that's tampering physical evidence. It's a Class D felony, the lowest level in Kentucky. It's 1 to 5 years in prison.
And is this a case of harbinger of what's to come for the next case, or are we talking a completely different makeup because a murder charge is involved in the next case against Brooks Houck?
I think we're going to get a slice of the pie, but we're not going to get the whole thing.
Yeah. Do you think his brother is called to testify in the next trial?
That is a great question. And if it does happen, it's certainly possible that he could plead the fifth.
I think they'll arrest him by then.
We've seen cold cases like this come to fruition many, many years down the line. Does the fact that it's going to be 10 years coming up this 4th of July weekend, does that distance make it much more difficult here?
It does. I've tried cold cases as a prosecutor. It makes it much more difficult for them. People don't remember things. And certainly if they didn't document it at the time, that's why police officers write reports. That's why crime scene unit technicians write reports. It's because they do so many cases, a decade later, they can't remember exactly what they did. And so certainly it does make it more difficult for the prosecution. But let's hope that, everybody did their job. They documented what they were supposed to do, and ultimately truth will come out one way or the other.
And of course, Steve Lawson's testimony has been sketchy at best on the trustworthy side. Right. It's changed the story a lot and his credibility there. Right. Okay, Nick Mudd, our WHS 11 legal analyst, is going to be joining us here every night on this broadcast. Now, for nearly 10 years, the mystery surrounding Crystal Rogers' disappearance has gripped the Bardstown community. Now, many people are hopeful that they'll receive answers finally. Alexander Goldberg and senior photojournalist Alyssa Newton have been talking with people in Bardstown about the start of the trial.
No doubt about it, it is on everybody's mind.
Bardstown, a place well-traveled for its bourbon and well-known for the high-profile case of Crystal Rogers.
We kind of want some justice, and so we can go back to the little beautiful hometown that we are, and without having this kind of a dark cloud around us.
Bardstown native Tom Hayes has been following the case since the mom of 5 disappeared a decade ago. Tuesday, jury selection and day 1 in the criminal trial of Steve Lawson. Lawson was charged with conspiracy to murder and tampering with physical evidence in Rogers' death.
The biggest question would be, where is the body?
Hayes wanting whoever did it to fess up.
So they could, pay the respects and bury their loved one.
And like Hayes,
probably also to the why.
Charles Lemons has the same question.
Why? Why did they do it? And where's the body?
The Bardstown resident says the wheels of justice are turning too slowly.
They've been stringing us along for a year now with this, we've got him, and then nothing.
Rarely did Rogers' name come up without a mention of other unsolved cases in Nelson County, like Bardstown police officer Jason Ellis, who was shot dead in an ambush attack in 2013.
Actually, I think most people feel a bit of fatigue because, let's face it, Ellis still hasn't seen the light of day. They've not accused anybody of it. They haven't found anything.
The unsolved case is weighing heavy on the people of Bardstown who just want answers, made apparent by the signs and the billboards that have served as a reminder for the last decade.
The only thing you might look forward to is taking down all the signs that have been up for 10 years.
I think that'd be a great feeling just to have it, just to be able to move on, the city and the community, not move on and never talk about her again, but just be able to, move on. They still have I think the billboards on the Bluegrass Parkway, they were falling apart, and then they would go back and redo them, and that's terrible. So I wanted to show you guys this video too. This is going to be Crystal's mom. She speaks during the first day of trial, so they're going to go over it. It's just a 2-minute video here. Let me share it with you. Okay, let's see what Sherry had to say.
After nearly a decade without answers, the first trial connected to the death of Crystal Rogers fully underway.
Jury selection for Steve Lawson's trial took just a few hours yesterday, despite widespread public knowledge about the case. The day started with 85 potential jurors whittled down to 15. That's 13 and 2 alternates. The judge reminded them the trial is not to determine who killed Rogers because Steve Lawson is not charged with murder. Crystal Rogers' mom, Sherry Ballard, was the first witness to take the stand, followed by the former lead detective in the Rogers case. WHAS 11's Shay McAllister was in the courtroom in Warren County and has the details.
With tears in her eyes, Crystal Rogers' mom, Sherry Ballard, was the first to take the stand. She told the jurors, quote, "I knew the instant I saw that baby in the truck that something was wrong. She never went anywhere without that baby." Ballard described calls and texts to Crystal, desperate attempts to get in touch that went unanswered. Then a conversation on the way to the sheriff's office to report her daughter missing. She saw Brooks Houck and said, "I told him I'm going to file a missing persons report. And he looked at me like I was talking about a person off the street." She said he didn't go with her. The prosecutor laid out his case during opening statements, displaying a slide that says, quote, "the plan to murder Crystal." He says Brooks Houck asked Steve Lawson to, quote, "get rid of Crystal," but that Lawson wouldn't kill her, but did agree to move her car. He said Lawson called Brooks during a 13-second phone call around midnight on the night Crystal went missing and told him the job was done. Lawson's attorney, Darren Wolf, called this.
So he didn't call him to talk about rentals that evening, because what happened was, Brooks got fumbled into a lie. He was like, "Yeah, what were we talking about that night that I was with Crystal?" And he said, "Yeah, I asked you to ask Crystal about these numbers or whatever, right? Or something about some numbers." And he goes, "Oh yeah, Crystal handles that." And then he got off the phone. Instead of just handing her the phone because she was right beside him, the officer says that. He's like, "Well, why didn't you just talk to her if she was right beside him?" And it was like one of those like bum, bum, bum moments. There's probably a lot of those going on in this trial too. So I guess he was really calling to say the job is done, meaning to him, I guess, allegedly, I'm not going to say that he didn't unalive her because we don't know that for sure, but he's saying that the job was done, like the car was parked on the side of the road. To me, that don't make no damn sense. Why wouldn't you just say, "Hey, I took the car over"? Not the job is done. That's being weird.
This a narrative, a series of individuals that are going to attempt to be heroes. They want to be the people who solve the greatest mystery in the history of Kentucky. Wolf says that Lawson did move Crystal's car, but he didn't conspire to kill her, and there is no proof that says otherwise.
In Warren County, I'm Shay McAllister, WHAS 11 on your side.
The jury will return for day 2 this morning at 8:30 Central Time. The judge says testimony is expected to run through Friday, potentially going into Monday. The judge has also decided not to let cameras inside, but our team will be there. We don't
need to listen to the rest of that part. So that was day 1. I'm going to open this another. Oops. Okay. And then we'll just go through the videos for day 2. There's like a few different videos. They're kind of like shorter, like 3-minute videos, 3 minutes here, 3 minutes there. But it'll get us into day 2. Let me get us to where we need to be.
Tonight here at 6 o'clock in only the second day of the testimony in the trial against one of the 3 men accused in the murder of Crystal Rogers 10 years ago. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. I'm Doug Proffitt. Already today, bombshells from witnesses, including what employees of Brooks Houck, the chief suspect, say they heard around the work sites in the days after her disappearance. Shay McAllister is leading our coverage from Bowling Green in Warren County right here tonight. And Shay, I guess we ought to remind people that the judge has banned cameras from the courtroom. So you actually take a lot of notes and you get to report when you get out of the courtroom. A lot to talk about today.
Absolutely, Doug. So much new information revealed in this Warren County courtroom today in a case where I personally feel like I know so much about it. I was learning new names for the very first time, hearing new details for the very first time, seeing new faces, people I'd never heard of on this case, all adding to the story of an alleged plan to kill Crystal Rogers and then cover it up.
Within the first hour of trial, a bombshell. Former lead detective on the Crystal Rogers case, John Snow, confirmed Nick Houck and Rosemary Houck are considered co-conspirators on the case and actively under investigation.
Bum, bum, bum. Co-conspirators to murder? Or what are we conspiring for what? For murder? Oh, his mama's going to go down with him. Why is it always the prominent kids that take their mamas down with them? I feel like, I don't know why, but I just feel like it is.
Former lead detective on the Crystal Rogers case, John Snow, confirmed Nick Houck and Rosemary Houck are considered co-conspirators on the case and actively under investigation.
Does Brooks Houck have a daddy? Does anyone know? Just wondering, if he's going to get $1 million Peacock deal for this. Being sarcastic, but.
Prosecutor Shane Young even saying Nick Houck was a police officer. Who would be the best person to plan out a murder? And then new details about this call between Brooks Houck and Steve Lawson at the Nelson County Sheriff's Department just days after Crystal disappeared.
Hey, Steve, can you remember what you asked me or what you were after?
Steve tells Brooks he's looking for a rental property for his stepdaughter.
I called to ask you for their numbers for a house. Oh, for a rental house.
Today, that stepdaughter took the stand. Prosecutor Shane Young asked her, "Were you looking for an apartment to rent at that time?" Lauren replies, "No." Young asks, "Did you ask him to call Brooks Houck for an apartment?" Again, Lauren said no, adding to the prosecution's story that the conversation in the sheriff's office was staged, a cover-up. Steve Lawson's attorney, Darren Wolf, asked her about her drug use at this time. She confirmed she was using pills, and he suggested her memory may not be perfect. Then we heard from some of Brooks Houck's employees, people who noticed unusual behavior on the weekend Crystal Rogers went missing. Stacey Cramner told the jury about this conversation with Steve Lawson. "I have to go take care of a girl with 5 kids. I said, 'Take care of her how?' He said, 'Just take care of her.' I asked if he was putting her in rehab, and he said no. I wish that was the case." The conversation happened before Crystal was reported missing, but as soon as the flyers went up in Bardstown, the witness said she knew something was wrong and she called the Nelson County Sheriff's Office to make a report. After her, another former employee told the jury he watched Brooks Houck hand Joseph Lawson the keys to Crystal's car and then picked up Steve Lawson from a property on Thompson Hill Road and spotted her car parked there in the driveway. WHAS 11 was there when police searched that Thompson Hill property, digging in multiple spots. This was more than 5 years after Crystal disappeared. Police told us they were looking for Crystal's body. And today on the witness stand, Charlie Girdley, that former employee, testified that Joseph Lawson told him they could bury Crystal and never find her.
200 some acres?
So much
or
new
100, yeah,
information
200 some, that's a lot of acreage.
There in the courtroom today, we also heard from forensic experts who specialize in cell phone records. They were able to put Joseph Lawson on the Bluegrass Parkway with Steve Lawson on the night Crystal disappeared. Doug?
Okay, I have to go back over here. Okay, I wanted to make sure I'm not missing any.
More than one of them.
So this is just going into day 2 still.
It really was the theme of the day in the conspiracy trial of Steve Lawson, charged in connection with the murder of Crystal Rogers from Bardstown. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us on the WHAS 11 Night Team. I'm Doug Prophet. One woman on the stand saying Steve Lawson knew he committed murder, even though he's not charged with killing Crystal Rogers. Then the prosecutor claiming the one man charged with murder, Brooks Houck, had his brother and his own mother as co-conspirators. It has been a wild day in Bowling Green. So we asked WHAS 11's legal analyst Nick Budd about it. He's been with us for more than a year talking about this very case. Tonight on our digital special, Mudd told us the prosecution really built their case today and didn't shy away from the bombshell moments.
The big thing is, which is what I would say if I was a defense lawyer, why didn't you report this then? If it was so important and that big of a bombshell like you're using it now, why are you 10 years later giving a sworn statement in front of a courtroom and yet you held it this entire time? And I'll tell you, though, the best response that could be from a witness is, what happened? I was scared.
I thought I'd be next.
Thank you, mi amore.
There you have it. You can watch this full digital special right now on our WHAS 11 Plus app. It is free to download. You can watch this anytime. And tomorrow, be sure to tune in at 9:30 p.m., where Nick Mudd will be breaking down the latest from day 3 of the trial, along with our reporters covering the trial. Download on your TV and then watch for free. Well, despite all those new accusations there in the courtroom, the reality is this: Steve Lawson is on trial for conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. Isaiah Kim Martinez is in the Bowling Green courtroom, focusing on the testimony that deals with those charges.
For the first time, the jury got to hear audio from the 3 times Steve Lawson testified before a grand jury in 2023. Lawson admitting his former boss, Brooks Houck, had a code word. When Houck said it, Lawson knew immediately to talk about the rental properties they worked on together.
Hey, Steve, can you remember what you asked me or what you were after?
That very topic coming up during this scrutinized police interrogation video of Houck from years ago. Steve on the other line of this phone call during the interrogation.
And I called to ask you for them numbers for a house. Oh, for a rental house.
Headphones on, jurors got to hear Lawson in 2023 say Houck once told him he, quote, wanted his wife gone. Our WHAS 11 legal analyst Nick Mudd saying that's major.
I mean, that's huge. That is huge. And Lawson saying that, Lawson been aware of that, that means he knew that a conspiracy, or that he knew there was a plot, that there was a plan to get rid of her.
Lawson testified, to me, it means he wanted her deceased. Responding to Houck, you got the wrong guy. Talk to Charlie. He's talking about Charlie Girdley, a former Houck construction employee who took the stand earlier in day 2. Girdley told the jury he heard Joey Lawson, Steve's son, who's also charged in this case, saying, quote, they could bury her with a skid steer and they'd never find her. We also got an extensive look into Steve Lawson's cell phone data. A cell records analyst from Elizabethtown PD testifying there were multiple calls from July 2015 deleted from Lawson's phone, including a more than 2-minute conversation with Brooks Houck on July 8th, now gone. But still available, a July 4th text exchange between Steve and Joey Lawson. Steve telling Joey, we'll talk in person, nothing over the phone, no text, little surprises coming. Meanwhile, an LMPD detective who took the witness stand saying Lawson's phone was detected multiple times in the early morning hours of July 4th, 2015, near Thompson Hill Road and the Bluegrass Parkway in Bardstown, where Crystal Rogers' car was found abandoned days later. Day 3 of testimony is expected to bring at least 3 more witnesses from prosecutors before the state rests its case against Lawson. After lunch, it'll be the defense's turn to convince jurors that Lawson played no role in helping organize the murder of Crystal Rogers or covering it up. In Bowling Green, Isaiah Kim Martinez, WHAS 11 on your side.
Okay. Let me pause that and then go back over to, I think this like is going to be backwards. So I want to make sure it's not too backwards for you guys. Because they put in like a bunch of videos, but they're all like, 3 or 4 minutes long. I think we're going to like be kind of going backwards almost, but that's okay. Let's see if I can go up to here. Okay. Okay, so here's this one. Okay. We're going to get to know this guy.
Steve Lawson's cover-up case of the Crystal Rogers Bardstown murder mystery ended for the day early. The Commonwealth also rested its case before lunch, then turned it over to the defense, and they will be calling more witnesses tomorrow as we kick off Friday morning. But one name, big name, continues to come up in this case, a man who appears to have deep connections to the disappearance of Crystal Rogers, but has not been arrested. Let's get to Shay McAllister with more on that, beginning our coverage today from Bowling Green. Shay?
Hey, Doug. Well, by my count, Nick Houck has been mentioned 4 times this week. He's been called a co-conspirator on the case. He's been called a suspect on the case. We've heard about an FBI file on him that includes evidence that he worked with the other suspects to not only kill Crystal, but cover it up. But still, He walks free tonight. Well, just a few hours ago, his former boss, the Bardstown police chief at the time, Rick McCubbin, gave me a call telling me he thinks that all might be part of a much bigger plan.
Well, Nick, I've had a chance to review your charts on both tests. That first test, you did not pass the test.
That's Nick Houck during a police interrogation in 2015. The man questioning him is an FBI agent named Mike Schaefer. Mike took the stand in court today, telling jurors he asked Nick Houck if he was involved in the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. Nick denied it.
I'm telling you, no. Okay, I don't know anything about this.
Prosecutor Shane Young confirmed in court today Nick Houck has been named an unindicted co-conspirator in the case. He went on to call the death of Crystal Rogers a coordinated effort. Are you surprised?
I'm not surprised. I'm relieved. I'm relieved.
Rick McCubbin was police chief in Bardstown in 2015 when Rogers was reported missing. He said he had to force Nick to cooperate with police.
When I called him in and he wasn't cooperating, I just got a weird feeling. Something's not right.
Days later, he fired him and told him he didn't deserve to be a police officer, something he stands by today.
One of the best things I've done as a police chief in 35 years. I can't put a finger on it, but you get that feeling. I'm relieved I made the right call.
Still, so many questions about the evidence in the case. How, of the 3 suspects named and discussed, Nick Houck is the only one still walking free. Prosecutor Shane Young confirmed it in court again today, saying Nick has not been indicted. How can they say these kinds of things, but then not go and immediately make an arrest?
That's a good question we all have, but I understand it's completely up to the prosecutor at what point he's going to flip the switch and do that. It's completely up to him, and they may already have a plan, and I'm sure they do.
A plan that could take shape in the days or weeks to come as Steve Lawson's trial starts to wrap up and Brooks Houck prepares to face a jury of his own.
A lot of people are asking what they think the motive could be. I think the motive is going to be custody of that baby. I think she told him maybe she was going to leave him. I mean, they were together how many years, right? They weren't married. Maybe she wanted a husband for her 5 kids that she had, maybe she wanted a little more than him. She deserved a lot more than him, so.
Well, this trial is moving
I think
along.
that's what it's going to come down to. Because when you get moms involved and stuff, you know what I mean? Like doing stuff, some crazy stuff for their kids. And then you got the brother involved. I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be something like custody.
On so much faster than anyone intended. We actually ended early today around 1:30 because 2 witnesses weren't expecting to have to be here until first thing tomorrow morning. So that's when we pick back up tomorrow morning. The defense now has this case. They expect to present 2 to 3 different witnesses, which means we could be hearing closing arguments and then possibly even turning this over to the jury around lunchtime tomorrow. Doug, if everything keeps moving at this speed, we could have a verdict by this time tomorrow.
And they did. Okay, so I got some of these pulled up. They're all like 3 minutes long. So this is the prosecution resting its case.
Steve Lawson continues, and thanks for joining us here at 4. I'm Connie Leonard. Well, some of the most compelling testimony this week came from the employees of Brooks Houck. So first, we want to give you a quick recap of what happened during the second day of Lawson's trial. Now, several witnesses testified about the strange behavior Lawson exhibited around the time Rogers disappeared. One woman testifying she was scared she would be next if she said anything to police. And then next, crucial evidence was shown to the jury, Steve Lawson's cell phone records. Experts were able to track the phone's general location around the time of Rogers' disappearance, putting him near her car that was left abandoned on the Bluegrass Parkway. And lastly, the Houck family is under investigation. Prosecutor Shane Young said 2 members of Brooks Houck's family are still under investigation as co-conspirators in the Rogers case. His mother, Rosemary, and brother Nick. WHAS 11, Shay McAllister and photojournalist Jessica Farley have a look at what happened today.
There's a name that continues to come up in this case, a man who appears to have deep connections to the disappearance of Crystal Rogers, but still walks free from any charges. Nick Houck took center stage in this Warren County courtroom once again today. On day 3 of Steve Lawson's trial, a former FBI investigator took the stand. Mike Schaefer was called in to testify about an interview with Steve Lawson in 2020, telling the jury Lawson lied to him about where he was on the night Crystal disappeared. He claimed he was at home. Cell phone forensics proved he was actually on the Bluegrass Parkway, turned around near where Crystal's car was found, and then drove back to Bardstown to a property near Thompson Hill Road, a spot the FBI searched years later looking for Crystal's body. But it was the cross-examination that raised eyebrows. Lawson's attorney Darren Wolf asked Schaefer who else he's talked to in this case. Schaefer said he interviewed Nick Houck in 2015.
Well, Nick, I've had a chance to review your charts on both tests. That first test, you did not pass the test.
On the stand Thursday, attorney Darren Wolf asked Schaefer what Nick said about his involvement in the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. Schaefer said Nick denied it.
I'm telling you, no. Okay, I don't know anything about this.
Despite significant evidence and information that led the FBI to believe he was involved. This is the third time Nick Houck has been mentioned as playing a role in the case, but he has still not been indicted, something prosecutor Shane Young confirmed in court today, saying Nick Houck has been named an unindicted co-conspirator in this case. He called the death of Crystal Rogers a coordinated effort. Court ended early today in Bowling Green. This trial is moving along so much faster than anyone anticipated. Some of the witnesses who need to testify aren't planning to be here until tomorrow. Still, the hope is that this entire case could be in the hands of the jury before the weekend. In Warren County, I'm Shay McAllister, WHAS 11 on your side.
Okay, I thought I was muted. He thought, yep. That's what, Delana, that's what I think so too. I think that his whole family just thought they were untouchable. You know, it's giving me like the Wagner family vibes. We were talking about them last night with the Piketon massacre, like the mom being involved, the brother, the dad, the whole family being involved. Like, but this was one person, not 8. But still, it was like an enterprise. You know, they all had their little part, I guess, and we're gonna learn about it. I guess the prosecution has a little more than we thought this whole time, because I didn't think that they had 400,000 pages worth of stuff. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have thought that they had I would have assumed a lot because it's been 10 years. But at the same time, we haven't heard of a lot like over the 10 years. We really haven't heard of really anything happening, you know? So now we finally are. So that one was the same. These two have like the same title, but they're different videos. So we'll watch them.
Relieved that when I called him in and he wasn't cooperating, you know, I just got to
go back a little bit.
Surprised. I'm relieved that when I called him in and he wasn't cooperating, you know, I just got a weird feeling, you know, something's not right.
Only on WHAS 11 News, that's former Bardstown Police Chief Rick McCubbin reacting to the name that has been thrown around a lot during Steve Lawson's trial in Bowling Green, Nick Houck. Nick is the brother of Brooks Houck, charged with the murder of Crystal Rogers. McCubbin fired Nick for his interference in the early Crystal Rogers investigation. Nick was a Bardstown police officer at the time. In an exclusive interview with WHAS 11 News, McCubbin called it the best decision he's made in 35 years of policing. Well, Houck has never been charged in connection with this case, but the prosecutor today called him, quote, an unindicted co-conspirator. WHAS 11's Isaiah Kim Martinez is in Bowling Green as the Steve Lawson trial is expected to possibly go to the jury sometime tomorrow.
There's serious speculation that fired Bardstown cop Nick Houck, brother of murder suspect Brooks Houck, could be arrested and charged as the 4th suspect in the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. Former Bardstown Police Chief Rick McCubbin believes it may just be a matter of time.
There's a reason that it's being put out there like that. A lot of people have that question, the same question. When? You've said all these things, make it happen.
Nick Houck, who's never been charged, was again name-dropped by prosecutor Shane Young as an unindicted co-conspirator during day 3 of Steve Lawson's criminal trial. That's wrapping up quickly.
I was like, finally, it's, you know, still not charged, I understand, but just to hear the kind of what we've all thought and known. And I think they were a part of, taking her away, helping get rid of her.
McCubbin, talking to our Shay McAllister, says this confirms he made the right call, firing Nick for not cooperating with authorities.
I'm telling you, no. Okay, I don't know anything about this.
When he was questioned days after Crystal went missing. Back to Steve Lawson's trial, we heard from a witness, the Nelson County jailer, who in that moment while he was testifying, there was actually audio played from a conversation in jail between Steve Lawson and his own mother in early 2024, played out for the jury to hear. Some of those moments actually bringing Sherry Ballard, Crystal Rogers' mother, to tears. Somebody has to know what happened to that girl. Lawson's mother told him in that phone call. I don't disagree with you, Steve replied, later promising his mom he didn't help kill Crystal. His mom pushes. 2 days later, that girl is missing. You should have gone to police. You're right, Steve answered. His mom ends the call saying, only you know what happened. A lingering question. Will Steve Lawson himself, the criminal defendant, take the stand? WHAS 11 legal analyst Nick Mudd says it could happen.
Would you put him on the stand?
I would.
You would?
And I'll tell you why. At this point, you got nothing to lose. A good strategy would be to put him on, own the fact that you were scared, you were, upset, and just you're fearing to go to jail.
In what's expected to be the final day of the trial. Isaiah Kim Martinez, WHAS 11 on your side.
Now, WHAS 11 News has hired the attorney there you saw, Nick Mudd, with the Mudd Law Group, as our legal analyst. He's been with us for more than a year now talking about this very case. Mudd also knows both the prosecutor and the defense attorney in this case very well. So we also asked Nick about the potential closing arguments, the prosecution first.
Big point is, why did Steve Lawson lie about thing after thing after thing after thing, whether it's the cell phone records, text messages, calls, times, locations? Why lie about it all if you're not involved?
Let's go to the defense. What's my argument?
We work for Brooks Houck, we're getting paid, and we're doing what his marching orders are. Why didn't we tell the truth all these times? Because we're scared. We were scared to go to prison. We were scared to get involved, and we didn't want this to happen to us.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. You could. I was reading some of the day 3 takeaways. So there were jail call recordings, and it says Nelson County jailer Justin Hall. I'll put it on this page so we can read it together. Was the prosecution's final witness. During his testimony, prosecutors played audio of jailhouse phone calls Lawson had while being held in January 2024. Now, I wonder if we can get them jail calls and stuff. I'm curious. One of the calls was between Lawson and his mother. I mean, I guess bless him for being able to call his mom, but it says, during which he recounted an alleged conversation between him and Houck that prosecutors have said was a solicitation for the murder of Rogers. Don't know why they didn't charge him with solicitation, but okay. He said, I want her gone. I said, well, what are you talking about? Lawson said in the jail call with his mother. Told him to go talk to Charlie. He continued, a reference to Charlie Girdley, who testified May 28th. Lawson's phone call with his mother also detailed his recollection of picking up Joseph Lawson after Rogers' vehicle broke down on the side of Bluegrass Parkway the night of July 3rd, 2015, when Rogers was last seen. The story Lawson laid out in the jail call is similar to the one he told a grand jury in 2023. In that appearance, which prosecutors played in court May 28th, Lawson testified that Houck told him he wanted his wife gone and recalled picking up Joseph Lawson from Bluegrass Parkway. The jail call evidence comes as the defense trains to focus on quashing the prosecution's argument that Lawson is guilty of conspiring to murder Rogers. During opening arguments, the defense conceded that Lawson is guilty of tampering with evidence. So the defense came out and was like, he's not guilty of this, but he's guilty of this. So, they do that sometimes so that, I think people will be like, oh, look, he's telling the truth, or he wouldn't have said that. But they'll cop to the smaller, thing. So the jail call evidence comes, oh, sorry, I already read that part. Shortly after the prosecution called its final witness to the stand, May 29th, attorneys for Lawson made a motion to dismiss his conspiracy to commit murder charge. Sims denied the motion, but while arguing against it, Young said that Lawson's agreement to help move the car after Hawk allegedly approached him about Rogers could constitute a conspiracy. Yeah, it could. So, there was the jury went out today. I think they were out for like a few hours. It wasn't that long. Wasn't that long. And they returned with a verdict. So we're going to go ahead and play the verdict. Or play them talking about the verdict. Anyway. And then there is a longer version of this video. If you guys want to, I can always put it in the chat for you. I think it goes over like the whole case because it just came out recently and it's an hour long. So I think it might go over the whole case.
I'll let you know that we're getting. So we want to let you know that we're getting this word as we just came on the air. And as you know, the judge forbid cameras in the courtroom down there. And it's looking like possibly guilty on tampering with physical evidence. So our reporters are in the courtroom, but they're having to come out of the courtroom and feed this information. And I'm getting it through text message from our photographers on the air there. Shay McAllister just now texting me, guilty on both conspiracy and tampering. And they're doing the sentencing right now, Connie. They are hearing the testimony. This is moving fast. Shay is right there in the courtroom outside being able to get it. She's not going to be out of there for a minute. But again, let's once again go over this because it's just coming in. Guilty on both conspiracy to commit murder and tampering. As you pointed out, the tampering charge there was easy for the jury.
Right, because the defense admitted that Steve Lawson, tampered with the evidence in the case. And so that not a big surprise, but some thought maybe after he took the stand today that maybe the jurors would believe that he was not guilty of conspiracy. Maybe he could prove his case, but apparently that didn't happen.
That didn't happen. Nick Mudd, come on in here. He just walked in. He's walking in the door as we speak. Our legal analyst who called it. I've got your microphone. You're sitting right over here, Nick. And he called it. He said that Steve Lawson would testify, and that's the first thing that happened. So we want to get your, if you want to boost your seat up there, this is just happening live television here as we're getting the verdict in, coming in from the courtroom down in Bowling Green. So Nick, I'll give you that microphone. Give us your reaction here to the guilty charge on both conspiracy and tampering. They're doing the sentencing right now.
Obviously they thought that he was involved. Taking the stand was obviously a risk, but I think it was kind of a Hail Mary at that point. I talked to multiple lawyers last night who thought I was crazy at first too when I said, hey, I would put him on the stand. But then they said, look, at this point, everything points to a conviction on both charges. If you're starting at zero, what do you have to lose?
Right. Let me ask you this. So today on the stand, Steve Lawson said that he didn't know who killed Crystal Rogers or if she was even dead. And that's, when I heard that, I thought, I don't know. If I'm a member of the jury, to me, that seems like you might be lying if you said that, because I think pretty much everybody knows that Crystal Rogers has passed.
Right. I think that quote for him was just bad. I mean, bad all around. I had the same reaction. I heard that.
Well, then was it a mistake to put Lawson up there? I mean, you said it was a roll of the dice, and because he might have a personality that connects with the jury. We don't really know. We've never heard him speak.
But I think at that point, because the proof was so overwhelming, he was likely to get convicted. You got to do something as a lawyer. I mean, it's your Hail Mary pass to say, look, I got one shot. Maybe they believe you. Maybe they think that you were used by Brooks Howe. But that quote was very bad for him. I heard he did pretty well on the stand, but that quote in particular was it's kind of those, once it's said, you can't pull it back. And his lawyers are probably sitting there going,
I want to bring in an exclusive interview that Shay got. One of the alternate jurors, remember there were 15 jurors, 10 women, And excuse me, the breakup was what was the exact breakup? Do you all
Was it
remember
10
here?
women and 5 men?
Yes, 10 women and 5 men. One man was excused early today. We want to play the exchange as Shay was able to catch up with him as he left the courtroom. Here it is.
Can you just give me your read on the case? When you were going to be walking in, what were you going to say in deliberations?
I don't know. I didn't get that far.
Didn't even get to think about it?
No, not really.
Did you believe Mr. Lawson's story?
That wasn't really a question of the case.
Do you think he had anything to do with the planning of the murder of Crystal Rogers?
I don't know.
What about the car? Do you think he moved the car?
Yeah. Well, he helped.
He helped move the car.
Yeah.
But you're not sure if he was part of a larger conspiracy.
No, I'm not sure. I think only the jury can
Make that call.
make that call.
What about this case? Had you heard about it before?
No.
Oh.
You had not heard a single thing?
No, my wife had, but
Wow.
His
wife.
I knew her name. I've seen the billboard, but I didn't know about the case. I didn't know it's here.
You never heard anything? So you were truly hearing evidence for the very first time?
Yeah.
They should have kept him and told someone else to be an alternate. I don't know. I'm just saying in general, they all said they could make a non-biased opinion or, vote, but I'm just saying he really didn't know anything about the case other than his wife. And she probably just couldn't say anything to him, and she probably wanted to. That'd be so bad.
Yeah. I'm not big in.
Like put Vincent on a trial, like a jury. And then me, how to just be quiet about it. If I knew the case, it'd be so hard. That would be hard.
True crime stuff. So.
And it sounds like you followed instructions because you really hadn't made up your mind.
No, I hadn't. I thought I had. I would think that I had, and then, yeah, I don't know.
Was there any moments that might have changed your mind when you thought you knew something? You said you thought you might have made up your mind, but then something stood out and changed.
Well, we went through the whole trial without knowing the instructions. Once we were read the instructions, the way that the law reads kind of changes like what we're trying to decide. So, no, I didn't have a clear opinion one way or the other.
Are you interested to see what the jury decides?
Yeah, I'd be curious to see.
And will you be paying attention when Brooks Houck goes to trial next month?
Probably not.
This will be the end of your interest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
he'll hear about it from his wife.
What an interview. That was done at about 1:30, between 1:30 and 2 this afternoon as they were getting ready to go into the lunch. Your impression on what he had to say there?
You never know, because I have literally had an alternate come out and say, not guilty before, and then the jury convicts my client.
Right,
So,
right.
you never know what goes in that jury room, and you never know if 11 people went in there not guilty and you get one strong person and they convince everybody else. It happens.
Well, and when you listen to this man that she talked to, the juror who was dismissed, it certainly sounded like he wasn't so sure about the conspiracy charge.
Right.
So it's kind of surprising that they if he was thinking the way they were, I guess he wasn't, because you certainly would think, well, maybe they're not going to convict on the conspiracy charge the way he was talking.
Okay. So the jury came back and they recommended sentence of 17 years. Now, do I think that's enough time? No, I don't. I mean, I think they all should be charged and they should all be convicted of the murder of Crystal Rogers. That's my humble opinion. Just my humble opinion. You know what I mean? You just dropped the car off. That's all you did. I just don't see Brooks really getting his hands that dirty. I don't know why. I kind of feel like I see him having the property, having the place to put the body, but maybe not necessarily digging up the hole and stuff and doing all that stuff. But maybe he did. And maybe he did it with his brother. I mean, they were seen on the property that night. So you never know. And we're going to find out more. I think his trial starts, him and Joseph Lawson. So Stephen Lawson's son, Joseph, and Brooks are going to go on trial together. And there's trial starts, I believe, June 24th. And Brooks is charged with murder and tampering with physical evidence. And then it says he allegedly acted alone or in complicity with others to kill Rogers and tamper with evidence on July 3rd or 4th. He pled not guilty. Joseph Lawson is charged with conspiracy to commit murder and complicity in tampering with physical evidence. So, and he's pled not guilty. Now, do I think that they will be found guilty? I do. I do feel that way. Yeah, Ash, I didn't think that you had saw this yet because yeah. Oh, yeah. That's it. That's all I got yet. 17. Yeah. So that's a recommended, but I guess the judge could always come back and say no. And it's just a recommendation, I guess, but that's, but it says here, Stephen Lawson, who was on trial for conspiracy to murder and tampering with physical evidence in the disappearance of Crystal Rogers, was found guilty and was recommended a sentence of 17 years. Like, it's almost been 17 years since this crime happened. Not really, but it's just that's 17 years is not a lot. Friday was the fourth and final day of Lawson's trial. The prosecution rested Thursday and after playing several phone calls made by Lawson while he was in jail. During the day, the defense was supposed to call 2 witnesses to the stand, but they didn't arrive to testify. It says that at 4:55, that's when they returned with the 17 years, the recommended years for jail time. Wow. It says the jail time is recommended to run concurrently with 17 years recommended for conspiracy to commit murder. Oh, and 5 years recommended for tampering with evidence. So that's a little better, 22 years. But he could be out in 11 or 10 with good behavior. When polled, all members of the jury agreed with the sentence. A final sentencing hearing will be held in Nelson County Court on August 6th at 3 p.m. So right before Koberger goes on trial, they'll be doing their final sentencing hearing, I guess, for him. That's a long time, right? Like, if that was me, I'd want to know my sentence. Like, I would be like, it could be anything. Oh, there's going to be so much more that's going to come out, Delana. Me too. I think so. I think there's just going to be so much. After hearing they had 2 terabytes, I think, of data and 400,000 pages worth of stuff. That to me is a lot. That's a lot. I would love to read some of that. Nothing's really been released to us. We did get like the arrest affidavits for, I think I read Brooks. I don't know if we read the Lawsons or not. And then maybe a couple other little documents, but nothing really major. Like, you know what I mean? There wasn't like document after document like there is a Brian, Kohlberger's case. Which there was some new documents in that case tonight, but don't let anyone get you with that clickbait because it's a ceiling and a ceiling. A redacting and a ceiling. It's nothing. I'm going to go double check though, because I just told you guys that, and then watch. It'll be like something. No, it's just the motion to seal state's proposed supplemental jury instruction. So, and then the order sealing it. But I have a show for you tomorrow for Idaho. We're going to do 2 podcasts on the show tomorrow, or we might do that, or we might do what was in Brian's house, or we might do both. I have a bunch of stuff I wanted to bring up to you guys. I was just reading the series. 17 years, yeah. He'll be eligible for parole in no time, yeah. Especially if he's, if on his good behavior. Really, Mia More? I never really had anybody discuss the case with whenever I was on the jury. I swear my friend's dad put me on that jury on purpose because he was the judge. I'm like, what are the chances? And I was going to school for criminal justice at the time. I'm like, is he trying to get me some like training or something? And then they called, there was like 200 of us in there in this huge courtroom. And we're all in there like waiting for our name to not be called or called. It's like the third day that we've been in there, second or third day, right? And they're finally making their mind up on who's going to be on the jury and who's not. They called 12 jurors up there, and number 12 was me. I almost got out of it. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Number 12? So it was crazy. My dentist appointment went really well today. I still have to get a permanent put in, but they were able to cement my tooth back up there. She said it was really loose. She was like, oh, she was like, wow. She took it out like right with her hand. She was like, this was, and I was like, because I was like, was it really loose or was I said, was I making a big deal out of it? Because I wouldn't touch it. Like I was afraid to touch it. And she was like, no, it was really loose. Like you, so the post, when you get a crown, your crown of your tooth, like the crown, I wish I had my little teeth thing in here. So your crown it'll have like a post in it. That way it can post it into your other tooth. Like they sand it down to like a point, and they drill a hole and they put the post in the hole. My hole cracked, like my tooth cracked. So there's nothing you can do about that, but remove the tooth before like any infection or anything happens, and then get a prosthetic. Yeah, prosthetic. And so I think I'm going to do that. And then I may do 2 bridges instead of the permanents here. I might do 2 bridges and that's all I need. And then I'll be good. You've got 1 crown. I've got more crowns than I think I could count. I think I have like 4 or 5, but I've got a lot. And it's just because my mouth was wired shut. Don't break your jaw. Don't break your jaw. Be careful out there, you know. But my dentist today, not the student, she was cool, but the actual instructor, he was awesome. He was the coolest guy like I've ever met, like up at that school, like up at the dental school for Ohio State. Like he was just like kind of cussing a little, like just laid back. And I loved his personality. He was cool. I liked him. And they did a really good job on getting that re-cemented in. So Vincent looked at it when he got home. He's like, it looks the same. I'm like, yeah, they didn't give me a new one. I thought it was kind of funny though. And thanks for saying great live. I appreciate it. You were the last one picked too, Willis. What, doesn't that suck? I was like getting my stuff together like I was going to leave. I didn't leave. But my dentist appointment went well. Thanks for asking. Ooh, stabbed to death at the dental house. They ain't getting me. Not after I get. They did this today without even giving me any Novocaine. I was like, she's like, do you want Novocaine? I said, I don't need it. I don't need it, girl. I said, we're actually numb right there. Really, like when you touch like right there, I'm pretty numb. So I'm like, go for it. Let's see how it works. So she did. So, okay. So people that have crowns. Okay. Let me tell you this because I didn't know this and it scared the shit out of me. So if you ever lose your crown and let's say you swallow it, right? Go to the emergency room immediately. Don't say, oh, I'll poo it out and I'll, no, no, don't do that because I guess you can, it can go down in your lung. And if that happens, then you won't be able to breathe and it's all bad news from there. So make sure if you swallow a crown or if you can't find your crown and you lost it and just go to the hospital, get the chest x-ray. Yeah, it was. Well, I'm still worried. I have about a month and a half to, like save up to get my my permanent because that's about how long this one lasted last time, the crown. It's just part of my crowns, like it's just not taken. And then I guess the tooth was cracked. And I said, well, why did we even crown this to begin with? I was asking so many questions today. She didn't know what to answer. She was just like, oh, I'm new. She was just there for like the one day. Like, I mean, she was my first time. This is her first day being my student. And I was just like, why did we even take my other crown off? My other crown, I had a crown on there. It was fine. Why did we touch it? Why do we touch things that aren't broken? Right? We were trying to just replace the crown. That's what we were trying to do. But the tooth underneath of it, I think, was cracked. And she tried to like replace it anyway, and it just didn't take. So that's my story. But I did have to wake up at the butt crack of dawn and go up there. But it was okay. It actually wasn't a bad drive. It wasn't a bad drive. Just the rain, it was rainy today. I was like, I don't like the rain. I don't like rain. But yeah. That's all I think I have for you guys. I'm going to start tomorrow. We'll do an Idaho show. We will go over more of this case, especially because, next month it's going to be Brooks going to be going to court. So we will get some people and tell them to come in here and listen to this case, and that it's a good case to listen to. It is. It is really interesting. It's super interesting. I knew as soon as I do that, you'd be able to see like my light switch. And then I don't know which way to go. This way. See, now you can see my lightsaber back there. And my balloons are right there. You can see them still. I need to deflate them. I have my 10,000 balloons too somewhere. I don't know where they're at, but they're somewhere around here. Well, I think I'll end with the song I came in with tonight because I kind of messed up the music. But someone told me tonight that they missed my old song. Oh, I should play it. Maybe I'll play it tomorrow or Saturday, Sunday or something. Just the one that I don't even know what it sounds like anymore. Which one was it? It was this one? Was it that one? I think it was. I think that's what it was. I don't miss that song. It's just what comes with StreamYard. I'm like, I don't miss it. After I listen to it for a minute, I'm like, I don't really miss it. But thank you guys for being here. I'll be back on tomorrow. I don't know if I'll do a live on my second channel because it's the weekend and Vincent's off. But if I do, I'll let you guys know on the community tab. Been wanting to do some stuff over there. I did do a video the other day on Amazon has Amazon Haul now, and it's kind of like they're like Temu, I guess, of Amazon or something, like Sheen of Amazon or whatever you want to call it. And I got like 3 pairs of shorts. It's right here. So, and like 3 tops and a bathing suit and a necklace. And I did a video, but I don't like the way the video really turned out. So I think I'm going to do another video on like trying the outfits on. But to let you guys know, it's about the same kind of quality I'm feeling like that I'm gathering. So out of everything that I bought, the bathing suit, I liked it the most. And I was surprised because I thought that I was going to like that the least. But if you haven't shopped at my great boutique, Poppy and Ari, you guys should. You're missing out. I'm telling you, the clothes of my boutique are way better. But have a great evening. I appreciate it. But if you did want to get on, you can always get on Amazon Haul. Like if you didn't want to do clothes, you could get like household gifts and cute little trinkets and stuff like that on there. I was just looking one day and I was like, what is this button? And that's what it was. So thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it. I'll be back on tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening. And if I don't see you, have a wonderful weekend. Bye, guys.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Take my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel